Good evening. We stand between everyone between dinner, so we won't take much time. But thank you, Mr. Peter Rich, for a very enriching presentation. Uh, uh, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you, IIID, for inviting us over. I'm pleased to introduce Neelam Das, who is with me today. She's one of the senior people in our team and an associate principal who's based out of Hyderabad. She'll be sharing some of our interior projects since it's an interior-based forum. We are based out of Delhi. We're about 100 people. And we do various projects, very small boutique projects to some large commissions in different climatic zones and geographies out of India, largely. A small boutique project out of Delhi for Paro, Good Earth. I'm just going to go through quick gist of our projects and then talk about some of the projects in detail later. This is, of course, our architectural journey started with this project, Ras Jodhpur. And in fact, incidentally, Mr. Rich, he was talking about the World Building of the Year in 2009. I think we won the Holiday Building of the Year in 2009, if I remember correct. So it's a coincidence. Here we really explored with local stone and jalis. This is our love for Rajasthan. This is Baradri in City Palace, Jodhpur. And we believe the greenest building is the one which already exists. So this is one of the many adaptive reuse projects. This is Godrej in Mumbai, an experience center for the real estate firm Godrej. We also do work for developers. This is Max House in New Delhi overlooking the Lotus Temple. And we've been doing a lot of hospitality projects. This is a recently finished project in Kolkata, Tal Kutir for Taj Group of Hotels. Here the inspirations were the Art Deco 60s culture of Kolkata, the club culture of Kolkata. An ongoing project in overlooking the Dhauladar Hills called Ras Kangra. We've been working for the Odisha government. We've been fortunate to work with the Odisha government. This is their party headquarters in Bhubaneswar. This is an institute which is under construction in the NCR region. A Piramal School of Leadership near Jaipur. Again, a very close project for us, a very dear project for us. This is a visitor center overlooking the majestic fort, Mehrangarh Fort. This is almost complete. Sorry, we're skipping. This is also in an auto mode, so I'll have to. Is a university near Puri, Odia University, again almost completed. I can't talk much about this project. This is the Qutub Shahi tombs. This is an Aga Khan project where, to give an ode to the existing tombs, the whole building was sunk into the ground. This is also under construction. And probably whenever a project comes to us, these are the questions we've been asking ourselves. These are the questions which really become a framework, how we deep dive into the project, what we grapple with. This is a process which really informs and guides us. So this is the predominant framework we follow. Can our innovation be frugal based out of our context? Because for Indian climate and Indian environment, Indian context, how can we be more low-tech than high-tech? So that's something very important for us when we start a project. Can we be futuristic with low-tech instead of going high-tech? Again, adaptive reuse. Can we restore buildings which have already endured the test of the time? Can we rejuvenate them, bring it back to its original glory? So we like doing projects which are largely based on adaptive reuse. Timelessness as we speak. Buildings which has lasted long and has endured long, can we restore them again? How can we redefine luxury? How can we make local aspirational? Craft. India is full of craft, full of traditional wisdom. How can we work with a craftsman? How can we create work for them when we do our projects? And I think both metaphorically and physically, treading lightly on the ground. A lot of our projects apply this framework where how we build, building as a kit of parts, building as a structure, how can we tread very lightly, do probably less and less concrete and explore other materials. So this is an ongoing dialogue for us as we do our projects. One of the first projects which I can start with is Ras Chhatra Saga. We call it handcrafting a royal hunting camp. Again, we found the site overlooking an 800-acre bioreserve. Probably the dam was created by collecting water. The owners were running a seasonal camp. They tied up with Ras hotels to convert it into a perennial property which can run throughout the year. So we were building again the fragile nature of this wall and this dam. So hence the structure had to be this long spine of about 16 rooms with a restaurant on the other side. And we probably had only 11 months to build this project. It was to be done in a very quick time frame. So we created a structure, a tented typology. I can call it a stitched tented typology, and something which again treads lightly on the ground against this, the fragile nature of the dam. So probably no use of concrete. If you see, we used ready-made concrete hume pipes and filled it up with lime and mortar and waste stone to create the foundation. And the upper part is basically an MS structure which has insulated walls. And then the top layer is the waterproof architectural fabric to give it the character of the tent. So actually we were able to do it in about 11 months. That's the section of the property. And this is how the construction happened, some of the images of the construction. And that's how it appeared. This long stretch of this stretch tented typology, it had views of the dam, of the lake, and of the forest on the other side. So this is the sunken part we created, which was intentionally created lower so that you can have views on both the sides, done with local stone, local masonry, very basic as I mentioned earlier. And then once you enter the tent, then the narrative of the tent is opened up and you get this vista and the view of the lake. And for the interior typology, interior narrative, we went back to the tradition of block printing of the region. And we worked with a very talented artist, Dhwani Bahal, out of Delhi, who actually went to the site and took inspiration from the flora and fauna of the region. So we really like to work on a lot of prototyping and a lot of collaborations, and we let the designer take its own flow rather than us trying to influence the decision. It was a very collaborative process. So she really worked to create this very large handcrafted wooden blocks. Some of the prints were almost 6 to 8 feet tall. And not even just block printing, we were able to she was even able to embroider, actually migratory birds and animals and stitched and weave them into the prints. And hence the inner lining of the tent became this beautiful canvas, a tapestry of art. And intentionally some skylights were created to capture the starry night. And again, a view of the inside of the tent overlooking the lake. And that's a view of the property on the other side of the lake. Actually, something sitting very humbly along the length of the dam. And for the public area, very small public area, we again couldn't make a very heavy building. So this became the reception bar and the restaurant, probably the only public space. And again, the construction was done out of basic metal and cladded with stone, handcrafted chiseled stone, so that you can touch and feel, again done by local craftsmen, local people from the neighboring villages. I think this is a local chittal stone. And as you can see how these textures and impressions were laid onto the stone, pretty much the same vocabulary of the tents. This is the bar which overlooks, which is the center stage. Again, the craft of Tarkashi, weaving, handcrafting into the wood. Again, the wood is local wood, local acacia wood. And that's the view of the public building from the pool side. So the building engages both towards the lake side and the pool side. And just to connect with the villagers, Ras was able to engage with the local women who come every evening, do the local rituals, do a rangoli pattern, and connect with the property, and a video capturing the experience of the site. If you look carefully, all the air conditioning vents are built into the stone. And that's the view of the lake as the sundowner. So we moved to Delhi, farmhouse we did in Delhi. And I think the owners of the house have done their main houses. So here the house is designed as a weekend retreat for a family looking to enjoy something as close to you can get to nature, being in the dense urban fabric of Delhi, the chaotic life of Delhi. So this is something where the idea of living in harmony with nature, creating a play of light and shadow, and connecting to the outdoors. We created a very dramatic drop-off. It's a cantilever about 13 meters deep to get a sense of entry, a shaded entry into the house. And as soon as you enter the house, the typical concept of a courtyard in a house, we have a double-light skylight court where we created really a bespoke staircase to take them up. Again, we worked with craftsmen out of Moradabad. This is all hand-beaten metal. And you move into the pavilion, the living room, which is actually like a pavilion drawing light from both north and the south north and south side. And the interiors remain daylit throughout the day. A lot of character was built in through our installations, such as the bar. The furniture has a character of wood, woven fabric, woven rope. And we wanted to try out different materials. So some of the walls of the project has this rammed out wall where we had fun doing a powder loo with exposed piping. And somewhere the house connects with nature and the landscape around. Again, a small video. Is it coming? For the government, for the Odisha state government of soil and agriculture. The brief given to us was essentially the offices for the state department and the farmers who come and visit. We worked with the clients and convinced them that it should become accessible to the city of Bhubaneswar, because Bhubaneswar is a planned city by Königsberger, and we went through that narrative, and we opened up the ground plane for the city of Bhubaneswar. So it doesn't remain a private space, it becomes a public space. So by a simple measure of opening up the ground plane and created a stilted area for interaction, for gatherings, for an auditorium, for festivals and for congregation, and the upper floors were meant for the offices. And again, as an inspiration for the facade, we took inspiration from the ikat weave pattern, and we did this in 4 colors of brick. The brick, again it's moving, the brick was required to create a second skin to cut the harsh sun. So it acted as a second skin, creating light and shadow. But the whole facade was wrapped with this pattern. These are the details of the facade and how the process took shape. And we convinced the government to give us flexibility and allow us to create art and craft at an architectural level. The then CM is a patron of art and craft. So we were actually able to do it at an architectural scale, where we were actually able to work with artisans around, probably about 60 of them. And they could work for a period of 6 months to fill up the spaces, the public spaces with these gestures. We work with Simadan Bhola, who I think again incidentally has a stall in the exhibition. He runs a office called Collective Craft. So we gave them a brief, and he really ran that process. So these are all local materials, condylite stone, where the patterns of rice paddy fields were engraved. These were condylite lotuses, which were taken care in the ceiling while we were casting the slabs. And these are the views of that areas, congregation areas I was talking about. Rich jalis were done by the local artisans. It has those mythological stories weaved into it. The metal artwork, the dhokra artwork of that region were placed along the corridors, the naturally ventilated corridors of this ground plane. And that's the building from the road. And probably again, a video really talking about the art and craft of this project.
We were quite excited, with the quantum of work that would be generated if artisans, if craft and architecture could come together. And I think that has been a big achievement, that this building project could generate work for about 50 artisans for a continuous 6 months. And we actually got artisans who had stopped working with the traditional skills. We convinced them to come back and to start working again. About people coming from villages to this building.
Can everyone hear me? Thank you. So I'll start with the very first project in the interior design domain for us, which is for a brand called Royal Enfield. And we worked on the Royal Enfield Garage Cafe. The intent here was to craft a motorcycling destination with a go-in soul to launch the next level of immersive brand experiences for Royal Enfield. So the space was a seamless sort of amalgamation of a retail space, a bar and restaurant, a gallery space, a bike customization area, and a service center, which you see housed in this entire area. The buildings are planned on over a half an acre of plot of land and has a series of independent structures that you can see that are interconnected with each other and tell their own story in some way. The central traditional Portuguese-style structure is the anchor to the space, which is actually now converted into a multifunctional gallery of sorts that currently houses Royal Enfield's legacy motorcycles like the Cafe Racer, the Flying Flea, also other engine replicas, which sort of help narrate the story and the history of the brand. The facade of this building has been treated it's sort of commissioned specially and locally executed by craftsmen in Goa, where the artwork was created by Co-Design Studio. And it is a Royal Enfield iconography, which is inspired by the Azulios and has been hand-painted on tiles by the Goan artisans. Adjacent to this heritage structure is this exciting double-height volume that one experiences, which is a steel framework, which also has a traditional Goan roof right above it. This forms the bar area. And the first floor of this area is a dining space that has incredible views to the Baga Creek. The double height volume in this area holds the bar, which actually has this artwork that has been created by the Monde Art team, which is actually a road trip to Goa that has been illustrated by them, which acts as a background to the bar. And we have these custom-made lamps that have been made using headlights, which are in brass finish, which hold and sort of anchor this space. We also have a slow-moving, high-volume velocity, low-velocity fan that has been installed, which is at the height of like 20 feet, which gives this gentle breeze to the space when you're sitting here. Here you can see some of the work-in-progress work by the Mondia team. On the first floor is where we have this exciting installation actually made by an artist named Hanif Qureshi, who has tried to communicate the idea of the love of pure motorcycling through his installation. And you see many such installations peppered across this space in some way. Flanking to this structure is the retail space, and towards the rear is where we have a service center and a bike customization zone. The retail space is a great sort of stopover for the bikers to use this as a destination to shop or buy accessories. The entire cluster of buildings has been set around this really charming courtyard with the coconut trees all around, which deliver this experience of something that is timeless, contemporary, charmingly Goan, and unabashedly Royal Enfield at its core in some way. I'll speak about the next project, which is Masti. Masti Cocktails and Cuisines. So Masti was our first project. The restaurant was part of a development called La Mer in Jumeirah 1, which faces the Arabian Gulf. The idea behind Masti was to create this F&B destination, which tells the stories, the culinary stories of a new India, keeping the soul inherently Indian, but also sort of bringing a contemporary twist to it to engage with a global palate in Dubai. So the entire restaurant is 8,000 square feet of space, which spans across 2 floors. The ground hosts the BOH, an indoor space with a juice bar and plenty of outdoor space because you have the most amazing view over here. The upstairs space hosts the bar itself, which anchors this space with lots of, again, indoor and outdoor dining space. And towards the right, you actually have the gin room, which is a slightly quieter, separated space along with a PDR. The vision for the project was to make it a contemporary space, which is bold and vibrant and full of energy, much like our country. And as the name suggests, Masti, the idea was to, make it feel fun and mischievous as much as we could. The challenge was with using local Indian crafts and techniques and interpreting them in a way which captures the vibrance and culture of our country, but at the same time not trying to make it too kitschy, too cliched, or too traditional in any way. We used stone inlay extensively and worked with Mangrove Collective for some of these tables in different zones, which were actually inspired by the sari border pattern, which has been inlaid into every table, and each table has a different pattern. We also sort of took this idea further and used the inlay as a technique to play with this idea of creating board game patterns on the tabletops as well, so people have something to engage with while they wait for their food. We even have these brass bowls, which are sinks essentially, that have been hand carved in Muradabad and then sent across to Dubai. The lights were developed by Ayush Kasliwal, which sort of anchor the seating pockets in this space. We specially developed jute weaves for the chairs for this project entirely and worked with craftsmen in Delhi to make this happen. The entrance experience of the restaurant has a brass inlay floor, which is again inspired by a column pattern. And then, of course, the bar itself, which is the elephant bar, entirely made in stained glass work, almost as tall as me, as you can see me on the left over here. That's me working in the stained glass workshop and marking out every inch and every panel for the fabricator to make sure we get the colors right. Here are some more images of the first floor of the bar area, the bar seating. Towards the right is where you have the gin room screen. And then this is the gin room itself, which has a distinct blue color. It is layered with colors and tapestry, and it also gives you the most amazing views to the Dubai skyline. So we completed Masti, and it was all done. And we were then told that it was time for Masti to move from the development and actually move to a new location. And it was very important, and that's why I'm calling Masti 2.0. It was very important at the time to tie back the old Masti to the new one, and at the same time create something different in this new space so that the guests coming here had something new to look forward to. The site came with its challenges, mainly a very, very tight footprint. We had 8,000 square feet earlier, and now we're working at 4,000 square feet, with very narrow entrances into the space. As part of the client's brief, one of the things he was clear about is that he wanted us to try and use as many of the existing elements that the old Masti had. It's almost unheard of in the F&B industry to, want to reuse elements in the space and introduce this idea of circularity. We used the floor. I went to site and we saw this floor, and it was a lovely terrazzo floor, just a bit dusty. So we chose to actually clean it up, polish it, and reuse it. The previous tenants actually left behind the MEP services in place. So we chose to reuse that, rejig it a little bit, and continue to work with it. We even went to the extent of actually using their curtains that they left behind. They were really great curtains. We didn't want to get rid of them, so we just dry cleaned them and we actually put them up here. These are some finished images of Masti, the entrance experience. We also tried to find ways of improvising where every time we entered, where we had a narrow corridor, we sort of created an archway and used mirror to create the sense of a wider corridor and create this illusion of more space. The show kitchen for Masti is actually cladded in glass block entirely, which picks up on the fiery yellows and oranges of the tandoor. And the gray tile inside the BOH is actually emulating this soot that settles in when you sort of use the tandoor over time. Some more images of how we use the gin room screens that we saw previously as part of an arrival area, moving, when you're moving from zone to zone. All of the furniture, again, we've tried to reuse, and even the decorative lighting was reused in some way. And then, of course, the bar was brought in, as is, in pristine condition, and put here. And that's one last image of Masti 2.0. The last project I have is the Sunita Shekhawat flagship store. This is one of our very recently completed projects, where we were asked by a leading jewelry designer from Jaipur, Sunita Shekhawat ji, to build a new store for her. There was this structure that was already in place when she came to us, and this was something that had gotten built over time. But she was very happy with the way the building was shaping up. She gave us the mandate to actually bring this entire building down if we wanted to and start from scratch. And as tempting as it sounded to us as architects and designers on this project, to get the opportunity to build something ground up, free of any kind of limitations, the structure itself was in very good condition, and it felt almost criminal to want to waste all of this concrete, almost over 1 million kgs of embodied CO2. So we reshaped the slabs, retained the entire structural system, scooped out connections, and created experiences, and created this building, which is actually a museum and a retail space. The top porous edge that you see is where the brand would actually have a cafe space which will give you these beautiful views to the city of Jaipur. This entire building has been made in Jodhpur stone because Sunita ji traces her roots back to Jodhpur, and the stone itself with its distinct character ties back to the context of the pink city of Jaipur really beautifully. Stylistically, the building is a synthesis of many different styles which have influenced the region over time. So there's Deco, there's Mughal, there's the Rajput style, all of which that has influenced the city, and you see it sort of as amalgamated together. You can see we've also curved the corners because we worked with the existing slabs to find a way to give the building a new expression. There's a play of light and shadow that you would experience when at the level of the topmost floor because of the many jali patterns that we've created. We also extended this idea of keeping it simple into the interiors as well, where the multiple retail pods in the store were defined by these fresco paintings that were created by these miniature artists, where they spent several months working on these horizontal curved surfaces. It was a scale that was almost totally unfamiliar to them, but they were just at it, making these beautiful creations. And what got created was this spectacular narrative of the gardens of the region, and each room has a different story to tell when you look up to the ceiling. And that's what you see as you move from room to room across the store. This building is a representation of contemporary handmade, a contemporary handmade building, and the processes and materials are sort of a bridge between contemporary and historical for us. So yeah, that's the last project that I can show to you right now. Thank you.